Jananim Sadadam Devim Ramakrishnan Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shutva Pranamami Muhurmo Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surai Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Tapaharine Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. My greetings, my namaste to everyone. Glad to be here. I came this morning from Mumbai. This is my first visit to this country or this place. Of course, Singapore Ashram is nearing 100 years now. It's nice to be here and share these ideas about spiritual life with devotees. It's a very beneficial practice for anyone to speak about spiritual subject, particularly to those who are themselves trying to live this, and what we call in India, we should have it as a satsang, a holy company, a holy get-together. The subject which has been placed for today's, I would call it as a contemplation and discussion, is practical spiritual practices. Let's try to understand the word spiritual before we go into what is practical practices. So what is spiritual? We all know there are three words in Sanskrit which would mean in our in simple English. One is that you have the idea of that we have the body, we have the sthula, sharira. Then we have also the sukshma, the subtle body. And then we have our divine reality called Atman. So I'll begin with this. So this is a basic premise or basic structure on which we think about ourselves. First of all, this is the first thing which everyone knows is our own physical structure, which grows. We were little children, we become young. Then there are declining years of the body. It's part and parcel of the very act of existence, not only of human existence, any existence. In the Kathopanishad there is a mention about this in terms of plants. Sasyamiva jayate, sasyamiva gacchante. Sasya means a plant or anything that grows on the ground. So sasyamiva, like the plant that grows, like the plant that slowly degenerates, pachyante. Likewise, the human body or any other body, suppose we take the other bodies in which the consciousness lives. So these are called the sthula sharira. So these bodies, they are born, they grow up, they become old and they die. So it doesn't mean that they become non-existent. It is only one of the stages through which the human experience goes. Then it is spoken of that the subtle body, or the subtle level at which we live, the physical level at which we live and then the subtle level at which we live, which includes our mind, our thinking, our emotions, and which also refers to the way our mind behaves. The way we do the things as we do, which means we try to find some explanation there. It is believed in Vedanta that in the subtle body there is, like we have the physical body, something like that, there is a subtle body which is not visible, but it has all the old things which are kept in that. Old things means whatever you have experienced in this life, you may have forgotten what we ate as a child, or what we have experienced as a teenager, or later. The many things which we have forgotten, the many things which we remember, but all of them have left an impression on our mind. They have left a residual thing within us, and we call it as we call it as karma, whatever the karma has been, or the result of whatever actions we have done, or we can also call it as samskara, which is the impressions, the repeated impressions that have been made on our mind. Now this is important to know this, because when we are dealing with the question of how to do spiritual practices, we must have an idea at what level we are doing spiritual practices. Physical, of course, as Maharaj mentioned in the beginning, we do various things, whether we go to pilgrimage, we visit holy places, we do charity, we do service, we read books. But along with that, we have our mind, the subtle body which is I'm referring to. So there, the mind, the way it is, Swami Vivekananda would often compare mind with as a submerged piece of in the ocean. There got the huge ocean, the ice is flowing. Only a small portion is visible. But below there is so much more. So that is sunken thing. So our mind, we have the sunken part and also the visible part, which means our own old tendencies, the experiences that we have had earlier, what impressions they have left on us, samskaras. And then we also speak of, beyond these two levels, we also speak of the reality on which our physical and subtle bodies or existences exist. And what is that reality? That is the divine in us, the divinity present in all of us. We call it Atman. The word Atman is used in Sanskrit, or soul. Sometimes with self, the word self is used. Swami Vivekananda, in one of his lectures, he says that the term Atman actually cannot have a parallel English word. The nearest word, he says, is self. Self, which means the sense of I that we all have. So what is that? There is some sense of self we all have. So this is not the ego, it is not the ahamkara in Sanskrit. It's not that I am this, I am a man or a woman, I am an engineer or a doctor, I am having various roles to play in my socio-cultural life. I am a citizen, or I am a chairman, or I am whatever, a housewife. No, it's not that ego which is being referred to here. It is the deeper part of our personality, the deepest, which is that I am without any of these limitations. All these actually represent a kind of a limitation, a kind of saying that I am this and I am not that. So what is that which you are, which is beyond this? Because it is Atman, the divine core present in all of us. The spiritual life is basically putting things in harmony, harmonizing our life. We harmonize our body and mind so that we can manifest that divinity that is present in all of us. When they are out of harmony, we cannot really express our own divinity. In the Bhagavad Gita it comes that unless you have got a very moderate and very harmonized body and mind, your lifestyle, your way of thinking, your way of your daily life, the way you eat, the way you relax, how much you sleep, all that if you are not harmonized, you will not be able to develop a sense of inner balance. In the Bhagavad Gita chapters, we find it famous definition. And at the end of it, the definition says, Yogo Bhavati Dukkhaha. Then the yoga becomes a means for removal of misery. Dukkha, which means to remove the misery. Now, we use the word yoga. We have been discussing these three bodies or three levels. We call the first physical, then the subtle, and the divine core or the divine ground on which we stand. And then we use the word yoga. So what is yoga? We are acquainted with yoga. We all, perhaps some of you do yoga also, yogasanas. But that's not the complete meaning of the word yoga. In the Bhagavad Gita, yoga is used in different ways, at least 4 ways. It speaks of yoga karma sukoshala. Yoga is doing action in a skillful manner. Now, it's not just external efficiency, which is important, of course, but it's a spiritual efficiency which is being spoken of. We'll come to that later. Again, it speaks of yoga, samatvam yoga uchyate, that yoga is the art of maintaining inner calmness, or remaining inwardly equipoised, not getting disturbed, not getting shaken by various events of life, circumstances, people, things that come to us because of various reasons. We also add karma to that, because some people wonder why things happen to us the way they happen. Maybe some people, they feel that it should not have happened to me. Something. We always want to overcome anything which is unpleasant, anything that is bitter, but things come to us. Despite our not wanting it, things come to us. The pleasant things come, unpleasant things come. In the midst of that, one has to learn to maintain one's equipoise. In the famous Ramcharitamanas, which is the Hindi version of Ramayana, there's a verse which we often sing today. You have the Ramnam. The beginning of the Ramnam, a number of verses are sung. So one of the verses that is sung is that I meditate on the Lord, which means Bhagavan Ram. I meditate on His face, which remained undisturbed when it was declared that He will be the next crown prince of Ayodhya. And again He remained undisturbed when it was said that He will not be the crown prince, but He will be rather sent in exile to the forest. He remained undisturbed. So that's Vedanta in practice. That is the spirituality in practice. That samatvam yoga uchyate. The person has maintained his inner calm, his inner equipoise. It is not to say that there is no relative importance of these things, that let things, whatever may happen, we will not protest, we will not try to change things. Things should try to go on the right way. There has to be certain social norms, there has to be certain things which happen around us. But in the midst of that, maintaining that inner peace is what is called yoga. So yoga is a kind of mental exercise, a kind of a inner chain that we bring in ourselves to not get affected. So the second way the word yoga is used. The first is that yoga karma sukoshala. Yoga is the art of skillful action from spiritual angle. And yoga is also the art of maintaining inner calmness. Third thing is yoga sanyoga. Sanyoga viyoga uchyate. What is sanyoga viyoga? that this is a very profound thing, which is very useful in understanding why we carry on our spiritual practices. So why do we do spiritual practices? We do spiritual practices because we want to become attuned to, want to get connected with our deeper self, our own divine being. We need to get connected with that again and again. We get connected for some time, we go to temple, we pray, we sing some bhajan, we feel connected with God, or we read from some book and deeply contemplate over it, and we feel very close to God. But after that is over, this mood doesn't last long. It does last long, it is useful, it is good, but it doesn't last long. So, why? Because there is a sanyoga, there is a connection of our mind, our inner being with this word. Word means the word that we experience through our senses. The word which is in itself, those who we are trying to understand spiritual life, we find that this word also has to be understood. Not only that we try to understand the self within, or the idea of God, or the idea of spiritual practices, but the word itself we should try to understand. What is word? Samsara or prapancha. There is a term used. What is prapancha? Prapancha means that which is made of 5 things. Pancha, prapancha. What are the 5 things? One is the sight. We see through our eyes, sight. We hear, so the sound. We have the touch, we have other 3 ways in which we perceive this world, which means the sensory experience of this world. So the sensory experience of the world keeps our mind engaged. We remain connected with this world. And this world, what is the characteristic? Again, the Bhagavad Gita, find it is mentioned that it is anityam asukham. It is not lasting forever. Any form, any shape that we see, it doesn't last long. What is long may vary from person to person. Suppose there's a beautiful child. It is beautiful maybe for 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. Then he outgrows his childhood, becomes young. There's a beautiful young man or woman, wonderful, but that remains for some time, for 10 years, 20 years, maybe. Then there should be a beautiful old man. But we don't see that. We see, only the youth should be beautiful. Now all forms have got their beauty. One of the very senior monks of the Ramakrishna order, Swami Buddhanandaji. He was the head of our Delhi center for a long time. So he used to mention this. He used to say that just as the sunrise is beautiful, the sunset also has beauty. So some people say only the youth and the childhood is beautiful. No. Even the declining years, even the old age has its own beauty. So let us not feel anxious that we are becoming old. This part and parcel of the existence, that there should be youth, there should be old age, there should be decline. So there is a constant change in the forms, anityam. It is not nityam. It's not always there. Forms are changing, sounds are changing. Everything that we see around us is changing. The change will be happening at a very slow speed, or sometimes very fast. Because it is constantly changing and we are trying to hold on to it, that there should be no change, so there is a struggle, there is a conflict. So he says, anityam asukham. There is asukham, not sukham, not pleasure, not comfort, not being happy about it. There is inbuilt in this world. So what is the thing that is taught in the Bhagavad Gita about this? They say, you try to discover that which does not change. Try to find that which is ever present, which is always without any change whatsoever. Not only that, it's full of something else. It's not something very physical. It's not that I'm trying to find out a piece of stone which does not change. No, it is trying to find a divine core of my being. And that divine core is said to be full of happiness, full of light of consciousness. That is actually consciousness. So when we say that in this third definition of the yoga, where Sanyoga Viyoga Uchate, that you are separating the Sanyoga, connection with this world which is constantly changing, into and finding your connection with that which is ever present and ever full of joy, ever full of divinity, that is yoga. And the third thing is dukkha bhava, dukkha. Yoga removes dukkha. There is the fourth thing, that yoga removes dukkha. We have all heard this word sukha and dukkha. Sanskrit or Hindi or any languages, most of sukha and dukkha is. There's a very interesting reflection on this word, what is sukha and dukkha. One senior, very scholarly monk who lived in Vrindavan, he used to say this. He used to say that, look, the word kha means space. So there is an inner space, we have the outer space. Recently, India's Chandrayaan went the outer space. Then we have the inner space. The inner space where our mental space. So in this kha, in this space, when in the inner space, when there is something which we like, which is as per what we are wanting, which is as per our personality, our needs, it is always wanting, then it is called sukha. And that which you don't like, which causes you some kind of dislike, is dukkha. It is the inner space is filled with something unpleasant. Something pleasant is sukha, something unpleasant is dukkha. Now, having put this as a background, as an introduction to understanding spiritual life, now let's go further. We try to understand that we are here to discuss about practical spiritual practices. This may be all very good explanation. It may actually appeal to us with the lecture, which is very, very good to begin with. It's a right perspective that we build up to go further. But the question is, how do we connect ourselves to our own divine being? We call the divine being as Atman, or somebody may call as Brahman, somebody may call as Ishvara, somebody else may use another term, it doesn't matter. The point is that we try to find that inner being. How do we find it? The process of finding it is what we call as yoga. All spiritual practices come under this umbrella term of yoga. Whether it is when we try to do any prayer in the temple, sing bhajan, that's a yoga. Because it is bhakti yoga. Trying to involve our emotions with the Lord. We are all born with emotions. All human beings have got emotions. There is one of the Shaktis, one of the powers which human beings are born with. Just as we have the bodily power as our Shakti, similarly we also have the emotional strength or emotional power in us. When you connect to the word, it has one type of manifestation. When you connect to God or deeper reality of your being, we call it as bhakti yoga. When you pray to God, you feel His presence. We have great bhakti yogis everywhere. Most of the religious traditions in the world are kind of bhakti yoga, where emotions are connected to the Lord. Yes, we are not complaining to the world, so to say. We are complaining to God, suppose. Say, oh Lord, this is what it is. Or I connect my deepest feeling of adoration to God. We call it as bhakti aradhana. That I am adoring God. Similarly, we have another one capacity in us, which is the capacity to work. We are bound to work. As long as we are alive, there has to be activity. There has to be work. So when we connect this work with our spiritual aspiration and try to convert our action into a kind of yoga, we call this karma yoga. So whether it is bhakti yoga or whether it is karma yoga, we are all trying to connect ourselves with our deeper being, even through karma yoga. You know, the way we do action, we carry on our simple things, often reflects the progress that we have made in our inner life. One of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, I think Swami Premanandaji or Swami Brahmananda, he once asked the people who were peeling potatoes in the kitchen in Belur. And he looked at the potatoes and he said, this person who is doing this potato peeling, he has progressed well in his meditation. Which means he has developed a greater sense of concentration, a greater sense of how much to be, neither too deep or not too superficial. That shows that how a person has progressed is also part of one's, as we do our action, is part of our spiritual practices. Again, you have the another faculty which we all are endowed with, that is the faculty of analysis, buddhi. We are all endowed with a certain amount of intelligence, and with that intelligence we carry on our professional life, carry on our day-to-day activities, which is very important. But why not we direct this buddhi also to know who we are, what we are? If we try to understand, that is directing our buddhi shakti, our power of intelligence, towards our own inner rediscovery, so to say. When we are trying to do that, we call it as jnana yoga. So jnana yoga is when we are trying to understand who we are. It's not just there is one difference in when we say that we have to apply that intelligence to inner life. There's one difference in saying that you apply it from outside in the world and you apply it from the inside. So there's one difference. What's that? In the outside world, when we apply our intelligence, all that matters is IQ, as we use the word IQ. How sharp you are in reasoning out things, how well you can design a product, so to say, or how well you can manage a situation. So that's the way we apply our intelligence in the external world. But when we say that we are to employ that intelligence in the inner world, there is one condition which our scriptures speak of. That is called the purification of that intelligence. What is purification of that intelligence? He says, when you free your mind from your own human weaknesses, like anger, greed, jealousy, etc., then your intelligence becomes fit enough to make the right investigation of what you are inside. Otherwise, you have your own biases in the mind. Your mind is biased. Then that biased mind is called the impure mind. And the mind is completely unbiased because it has no attachments. It has freed itself from all impurities. That mind, that intelligence becomes a powerful instrument for self-investigation. And in Jnana Yoga, it's not that we are trying to find the external world and external world's importances, but here we are inside who we are. Swami Vivekananda gave the famous talk, series of talks in Chicago, and there he spoke of this famous sentence, if I close my eyes and try to think who am I, that's all I think of. What is it that I do? What is that experience? So one way of understanding understanding is that I am present in all the states of my being. What are the states of my being? I am awake, I am present. When I fall asleep, I am dreaming, I am present. Again, I am present when I am in deep sleep. When I am not seeing any dreams, I am into a very deep sleep. I am present. So what is this I which is present in all these three states? When we try to understand, when we go deeper, that is called our divine self. This is the purpose of Jnana Yoga. So in our spiritual practices, we can always have this, that we try to understand who we are. We try to dwell on that. There are beautiful Sanskrit verses which speak of that I meditate on that divine being present in me in the early hours of the day. Try to think of that which is unaffected by this world, and so on. So we have this third way, that is the Jnana Yoga way. And there is a fourth one, which Swami called as the Raja Yoga or Jnana Yoga. When we try to collect our scattered mind, the mind which has as if gone in different directions and lost its way in various alleys and lanes and roads of this world. When we close our eyes, we find those roads appearing before us. When we say, oh, I have gone there, this experience that happened to me, I had this bitter experience, I had this unhappy experience, I had this happy experience, I felt very elated, or I did not feel very elated, I felt very disturbed. Different experiences, each one has his own story. That's the human condition, that each one of us have our own story, our own personal story of what we receive, what has come to us through our own karmas, through our own actions, all through the world. You ask anyone, he has his own story. And then it would be a very painful part of the story, there would be a happy part of the story. So our mind is lost in these stories, in the self-narratives. So in Jnana Yoga or in Raja Yoga, we are trying to withdraw the mind. We are as if calling back our mind, which has lost itself in those various ways and bylanes of life's experiences. We tell him, we tell our own selves, we tell him, come back and come and sit here. We begin with asana. Even before that, we speak of the idea of purifying the mind. Again, the purification of mind is spoken of, and they use the word yama and niyama for that. In fact, yama and niyama are the basis of all the four yogas, all the four ways in which we are trying to deal with ourselves. So you try to call back the mind and try to rest it. We take the help of imagination there, but a very healthy way of taking imagination. That we try to visualize that there is a divine present in us. There are most of the things which human beings do begin with imagination. Whether it is science or arts or whether it is spirituality. So most of the scientific discoveries happen with somebody beginning to imagine things in a very rightful way and starts questioning that, trying to find a phenomenon of it. When he sees beginning with that famous story of Newton falling on the apple, so he starts imagining why it not went up, why it came down the apple. So he begins with that. Similarly in art, whether it is science or whether it is art, in art also imagination plays a very pivotal role. And when it comes to spiritual life also, imagination plays a very important role. And in that context, we try to visualize our own, that we have a divine presence in us. We think of any of the images that we have, or the divine images whom we worship. Or we just think of any non-human form kind of image. Could be the flame of a candle. We think of it as representing our own divinity. In Sanskrit we call it pratika. It is the symbol. It is not itself that we are worshipping, but it's a symbol that is we worship. So through that symbol, through that meditation of the symbol, collecting our mind, withdrawing from those disturbing distractions repeatedly. It's not one day exercise, but everyday exercise strengthens that. So every day we try to withdraw the mind. Every day, it's not that spiritual practice is done only at the weekend. To begin with, yes, we might begin with the weekend, but then it should be a daily practice. And further, it should become a day-to-day practice, our practice that we have at all hours of the day. At every moment of the day, we are as if connected with our own divine being. And that's what spiritual life. If you take all these 4 yogas, whether it is the Karma Yoga, where we can try to connect by offering our work either through our own divine being or called some Ishtadevata, your own favorite form of God in which you are connected with, you offer all your fruits of action to Him. That's much easier in fact. But there are some people who are drawn differently, so they say try to feel your own divine being. And yes, this whole world, whatever products come, whatever things happen, whatever circumstances we pass through and different karmas that we do, the karma phala, the fruit of that action, I just offer it to the Lord. That I don't try to gain it, I don't try to become possessed of that. I try to offer all the credit, all the possession to the Lord. So you are the one who gave me this power, you are the one who gave me these circumstances, you are the one who gave me this intelligence, this strength to do all this. Now I offer it to you, because you are the real owner of that. So that's Karma Yoga. I offer everything to God. So this is powerful spiritual practice for our daily practice. In fact, one of the senior monks used to say that you should, the day end, try to feel. At the day end, try to feel your own day, how I spent my day, when I got up and various activities that I carried on. And then say, oh Lord, whatever I did through my senses, through my various limbs, through various activities, various actions and reactions, whatever I did, oh Lord, now I close the account. I offer it to you. I don't carry it further. At the day end, that's a powerful way of practicing Karma Yoga. That at the day end I say, whatever practices I did, actions, reactions, responsibilities, various decisions that I have to make throughout the day, all that, whatever has happened, I offer it to you. So that's whether it is Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. That is, we try to connect our emotions to the Lord. We have the emotions such as that I feel a deep sense of belonging. We all have a deep sense of belonging. So let's try to feel that we belong to the Lord. We try to feel we are connected with God. Suppose somebody knows a powerful leader somewhere or a well-known personality. So he feels kind of empowered. Yes, I know a so-and-so person. How about when you feel that you know the Lord, you are connected to the Lord, who is the very owner, so to say, who is the maker, who is the source of the whole universe. So you try to feel connected with that sense of great belonging. It's not about power. It is not just feeling empowered. It is also to develop a deep sense of oneness with that. We have the great tradition of different sages, be it the Mirabai of Rajasthan, or Andar of Tamil Nadu, or you have the Guru Nanak's tradition, or Kabir's tradition, or Tulsidas tradition. I come from Pradesh. We have Tulsidas things being spoken of everywhere. So throughout, you will have different great people who are trying to practice that. This deep sense of devotion towards the Lord. So one way of practicing Bhakti Yoga is that we repeat God's name. Repeating God's name is a very powerful and very effective practice of Bhakti Yoga. When we go on repeating God's name, it is said in the Yoga Sutras also, the whole idea of Karma Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga is not just restricted to only Bhakti Shastra. We find this partly overlapping. All these yogas are overlapping. Though they are independent, but yet there are overlapping here and there. So there is a verse in the Yoga Sutras, it says that by practice of repetition of God's name, it removes all obstacles of life. Hurdles in our life. Hurdles which are there visible to or invisible to us. So what is the greatest obstacle? That somehow we have not been able to overcome our attachment to things, attachment to various things of the world. Though we know it, though we have knowledge, though we understand it, yet we feel helpless. We feel somewhere there is some obstacle. So by repetition of God's name, those obstacles are removed. And also, what also develops a sense of purity. Once a sage was asked, how did you attain to this state of being as you have attained to? He said, look, that in order to cleanse your body, you need a soap or some cleaning agent. And with that in water, you clean up your body. Likewise, to clean your mind, you need God's name. Go on repeating God's name, it removes all the impurities of the mind. So, repeating God's name, whichever name one believes in, one is devoted to. So this is one practice in all traditions, that you should repeat God's name. Then we spoke of the Jnana Yoga. This one practice that we can have daily for our spiritual benefit is to think of our divine nature daily. As soon as we get up in the morning, we are often used to seeing what's happening in our phone. And we are used to so many social sites. We want to see what's the latest message which has come through some app or something. Instead of that, let us first spend some time in recalling our divine nature. It is something we have to first have complete trust in this, that yes, we have a divine nature. We don't have this nature which is constantly changing, constantly jumping from things, from persons to events. No, we have something which is our own, ever unchanging divine being. So as soon as we get up, let us think of that. Think of our own divine nature. So this is a very powerful practice from the Jnana Yoga practice. And then the Jnana Yoga or Raj Yoga that we are trying to gather in our mind. We are trying to collect our mind, recall the mind from its various distractions into our own divine, let's say, image or divine being. So all these four yogas, this is what Swami taught. He said that each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy. But one or two or all of these can become free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines, dogmas, rituals, temples, they are only secondary details. So let us not be lost in the secondary details. Let us try to go to the core, which is to discover that internal potential divinity which Swami Vivekananda speaks of. When we read the lives of Sri Ramakrishna or Holy Mother, we find how through their small little actions in daily life and their own spiritual practices manifested this. And spiritual life is not just to be kept away in some corner of our life, some part of our life. It is to be, it should cover our whole of our life. The whole of our being, we must be somewhere connected with the divinity present in all of us. So with these few words, I conclude. Once again, thank you very much to Reverend Maharaj for this opportunity of sharing these thoughts to all of you. Namaste.